Tonight after work I've been working on the little brass ID plate for the Riley. I got the brass from China. It was cheaper and faster to get this from overseas than buy it locally. It's just a piece 200 by 300 mil, 1 mil thick. Quite useful stuff to have. And I'd previously drawn up the graphic using Fusion 360, and I scaled it to the real ID plate that I measured on the real Riley that visited a couple of weekends ago. And you do some jiggery pokery with the model in order to convert it into a printable format that you then flip the image, because of course what you're doing is transferring the toner onto another surface, so you put it down upside down, so the printing has to be backwards. Then you use an iron to iron over the back of it at a high heat. That transfers the toner powder, remelts it onto the brass. This then sticks the paper to it, so you soak it in cold water until the paper basically gets so sodden you can easily rub it off. Sometimes scrubbing it with a soft brush helps as well. But what you end up with is a plate like this with the toner stuck to it. And the toner is going to act as a resist. So anyone who's ever made printed circuit boards knows how that works. This will work exactly the same way. The problem is I don't have anything to etch that. So what I've used in the past is in the bin, because it's gone, ammonium persulfate, which is what you use for printed circuit boards. This wasn't sealed properly, and so it's absorbed moisture, and that's no good anymore. So I can either get some more of that, or there is a technique you can use where you mix hydrogen peroxide and hydrochloric acid, and that creates a solution that will etch copper at least, but I believe it'll work with brass as well, so I'll give that a try. But that's the plate. That's how you sort of print it out. I fiddle with the printer settings to get as much contrast out of it as possible, and luckily I'm using a new toner cartridge, so there's a lot of toner there. So all I need to do is then etch this. Hopefully we'll see how that comes out. I've done this before on other bits and pieces, mainly smaller pieces, and it usually works fairly well. And the other thing I did is took the tail aluminium off again so that I could reuse the unused, my first attempt, scuttle panel. I cut the sides off, which is where most of the problem was, got rid of the welds, and have reshaped this, and it's pretty much the right shape for the boot lid. So I can't get it exactly right yet because I need the skin on the frame, because it's going to change shape a little bit, but you can see already that the fit of that is really close. And what I'll do for this probably is fold the edge over. I was considering folding the edge over and leaving a gap and then putting like a rubber P channel or something in there to help seal it. I don't know what they would have used originally as a seal, or I could just keep it really simple and have just a strip of stick-on weather seal type material, and that will be I do have budget locks for it to hold it in place, but it'll probably also be strapped anyway. So I've left plenty of material, I hope I've left plenty of material, because of course the hole needs to be wrapped around the timber. So the hole will get bigger, and then this will have a lip wrapped around. But I can't do any of that until the skin is on the frame and it's in its final shape. But that was good, being able to reuse that saved a little bit. And I do have more aluminium on order, so hopefully I can do the rest soon. I'm out tonight playing with my brass etching. I had to go out today, so I picked up some hydrogen peroxide, the chemists only have it in these tiny little bottles. So I had to use the whole bottle just to make up this solution. And I'm mixing that 2 parts of this to 1 part hydrochloric acid, spirit of salts. Just gave it a stir, and I put some tape on the back of the brass, and it's just going to sit in that solution. Not sure how long I'll leave it. I'll probably get a toothpick, and then you can sort of scrape gently across it and you can feel if it's etched in. Maybe 10-15 minutes. It's only been in there a minute or so. You can see it bubbling already where the brass is, so hopefully that will etch in. I have ordered more of the proper PCB etchant, and I've managed to get the old stuff, which is the good stuff, which is ferric chloride. You used to be able to buy it in bottles from Dick Smith or J-Car, places like that, but they stopped selling it, I think, because it's a hazardous chemical. But I found an online education supplier. They seem to supply electronics to schools and things, and they sell ferric chloride flakes that you can then mix up, I guess, with water to make the etching solution. And that would work really well. That's the right sort of stuff to use. So I've got some of that on order if this doesn't work. Being crystals, as long as I keep them dry, they should last forever. This is definitely working. You can see the solution is starting to turn green. I'm guessing that'll be copper ions in the solution. Been a long time since I did any chemistry, so I can't remember. But apparently this solution, if it works, you can keep it and reuse it. What you end up doing is you keep adding more acid to it, I believe, or more solution to it, and it can keep it going. But I think that green color is good. It shows that it is starting to eat the copper out of the brass, and that's only been in there for 3 minutes so far. So we'll see how that goes. The body, I'm kind of getting to the point where I need to finish filing and sanding this and actually get it on the frame. This is one of those places where I'm procrastinating, because once it's attached to the frame, it's going to be really hard to get in behind it to fix any imperfections or anything. But at some point you have to look at it and say, that's good enough. It's going to have paint, so it's going to have a high build primer all over it. It'll all be blocked back. And as one of my neighbors who lives about a kilometre up the road, he pops in to visit to see how I'm getting on from time to time. He used to own a body shop, and he did a lot of American cars. He lent me his bullseye pick so that I can copy that. I've made a template of that and taken lots of photos so I can make one of those at some point. As he said, nobody's going to come up to it with a straight edge across it. So as long as it looks right, you'll be fine. But that'll be the next thing, is starting to file and sand all of that. And following up from a comment that I had from Metal Shaper Tom with my first attempt at the scuttle, when he said I was creating a lot of work for myself. He was absolutely right. I see what he means now. With these panels, if I was being much more careful with the wheeling, much more careful with the welding, there's very little cleanup to do. So it makes it much, much easier. It's just practice. If you're doing it for the first time, or for me it was the second time, because I did make my Austin 7, but that was quite a while ago. So I'll just get better the more I do it. After 15 minutes in the etching solution, this is what the plate looks like. I have neutralized the acid. I just mixed up a jug of water and baking soda, dip the plate in that, and that will stop the reaction straight away, hopefully, and neutralize the acid. And then I took it outside and put it under the hose basically and gave it a really good rinse off. You can see the solution has turned green with the dissolved ions in it, and like all the best sort of chemical reactions, it's exothermic, so the solution warms up. It's not hot, but it's noticeably warmer. So I can keep that now and use that for more etching later on. I believe what happens is as you use it more and more, it'll get darker and darker and eventually go brown, which means it's exhausted. You can't use any more. That worked really well. This little bottle, 100 milliliters, was $9 though, so I need to find probably a industrial source of this if I want to keep using it. What I'm going to do now is you can see my brass was a little bit oversized, so I'm just going to touch it up on the linisher while I've still got the toner on there, so I can see where I need to sand it up to, that black line basically. And then I'll use some acetone to take the toner off and we'll see what it looks like. Friday after work. I think I'm going to have a busy weekend trying to get these skins sorted so I can actually attach them to the frames. That's going to be quite a big step because once they're on there, they're not coming off. But I just have to at some point say, good enough, slap them on, skim a filler, it'll all be sanded and painted. So that'll be the plan for the weekend. But I did paint my little brass plate and that's come out pretty well. So I used enamel paint and then I just let the paint dry a couple of days and then sanded it back, and that will go on there somewhere, I guess, and it looks much like a real one. So I'm quite pleased that actually worked out first go. Normally these things take a little bit of trial and error, but I've done etching stuff before, so I had a pretty good idea of how it would work. I've never tried the peroxide and acid approach before, but that worked really well, so I'll use that again. I might engrave. I had a little stamped plate here saying how much fuel the fuel tank takes, but I might make a little brass plate to stick on there to show which is the main and which is reserve pickup, because I keep forgetting, and put the fuel capacity on there as well. So I might do that. If I do that, I might try and film the whole process a bit better end to end, but this is my collected solution. I can reuse that. I'll need to get some more of these little bottles of peroxide, and the acid is easy enough to get as well. If you're in New Zealand, Bunnings or Mitre 10 has it, and this is just from the chemist. So I think what I'll do today is just have a bit of a clean up again. Every so often I just have days where I tidy up because everything becomes a mess, and be ready for the weekend. It's not so pleasant today, it's just raining, but hopefully it picks up, things improve.